Hi, welcome back. Another
Welcome.
another retarded week. It's so funny that we already got a super chat. I literally said this to the producer about 30 minutes ago. I sent him a clip of Kirsty Gnome, whatever the hell, and I was like, God help us.
God help us out.
Well, you are broadcasting from an undisclosed location. How are you?
I am indeed. I'm doing well. Wish under better circumstances and wish multipolar world was striking back. But sadly, we're on the defensive, and at this point, except for the special military operation, everywhere else it looks like a retreat, more or less. So it's not good at this point.
I don't know yet. And speaking of multipolarity, like we have Serbia, Nepal, Costa Rica in the chat. Like this show is getting so much traction in places where it like really counts. This week we saw a huge surge in Latin American followers, so I'm really excited about that. We'll cover Latin America soon, and Chris will probably have a lot of information on Latin America in the near future. Also, this week we had a really great space. It's on Maze's profile if you guys can find it. But we're going to talk about the topic today anyway. I think that's all I really have in terms of small talk. The weather's shit. Never gonna snow.
I'll open it up by saying, for those of you who are well aware, the Great Patriotic War lasted 1,418 days. So that's 1418. It's very symbolic numbers. We are now in day 1419 of the special military operation. So we are one day beyond what the Great Patriotic War lasted for the people of the Soviet Union. Not World War II in general, but for the people of the Soviet Union. So we're on the move. That's for sure.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up because we are on the move. Oreshnik, hello. All the way out in Lvov. A nice message to the Poles, I think. I want all of your thoughts on this and what's going on this SMO.
I do have to say, first and foremost, the memes of President Putin like Zeus, throwing down like Jupiter is fucking great. I love it. So keep those up, everyone. So for those who don't know, Russia used its hypersonic intermediate range ballistic missile, the Oreshnik system, for the second time in the war. The first time, everyone remembers, we covered it, November 2024. It targeted an infrastructure site near, as you rightfully pointed out, near Lvov in Western Ukraine, near Poland and the NATO border. Russia claims it was retaliation for the Ukrainian drone attack on Putin's residence, which has been denied by Ukraine and now by the US as being false, even though the Russians went out of their way to provide the data and, here's a chip from one of the drones that was launched and here's all the data. Of course, they said it was, CIA said it was cooked up and fake. The missile speed was Mach 10 plus. That's 13,000 kilometers an hour. I mean, that is unbelievable. Although that's the speed. That's the speed, supposedly, that Tom Cruise went in the opening of Top Gun 2, if you remember. He went up to Mach 10. So, of course, no human can travel that fast. That's fantasy. Reality is Russia has missiles capable of reaching Mach 10. So they are nuclear capable, and they are MLRS systems, so multiple launch systems, so that they can have multiple warheads, multiple nuclear warheads. But they used conventional warheads in this case. No major infrastructure destruction was noted, although there were successful hits of the targets that were ultimately selected by the Russian military. According to the Russian narrative, Putin boasts, of course, that the Oreshnik system is uninterceptable, which is, of course, we think and every scholar thinks out there accurate. And it's as destructive as nuclear, even conventionally. So it's very destructive even without the nuclear missiles. Imagine with the nuclear warhead, and it's even much, much worse. And it was part of a broader overnight strikes, killing 4 in Kiev. And of course, a lot of those civilian deaths don't necessarily come from the missiles themselves, but from other systems, other drones that might be intercepted by structures. Look at that map. I mean, that is unbelievable. I mean, this
one little Oreshnik just out to live off.
That's it. There you have it. There you have it. According to the Ukrainians and the Western sort of response, they called this use of the Oreshnik, which has, by the way, been deployed to Belarus, as we know, and that's been Lukashenko has even talked about it. They've called it an escalation, a grave threat to Europe. Ukraine urges stronger allied pressure, and analysts see it as nuclear saber rattling to deter Western troops possibly entering Ukraine as part of a security guarantee post-war. In terms of the broader special military operation, in terms of the last week, the Russian Ministry of Defense reports massive group strikes on Ukrainian energy, transport, and military sites. Advances claimed in Donetsk, in Dnipropetrovsk, near Pokrovsk, and Mirnohrad. Ukrainian long-range strikes hit Russian ammo and energy sites. Ongoing attrition for the Ukrainians, of course, heavy drone and missile exchanges. Russian losses continue, of course, but not as insane as what Western estimates say. Of course, the war carries a cost, but the Russians bear that cost very well and continue to not only recruit, but advance on all fronts in the battlefield.
So this strike the other night was huge. And it was close to the border with Poland. So, was it kind of like a challenge to be like, line your NATO air defense systems up over here, and I'm going to basically show you can't do anything?
Yeah, of course. I mean, basically, it's a direct response to what the Europeans are saying, which is we're coming in, and we're going to come in, especially in the western part. Russians are saying absolutely not, and this is what you're going to be faced with. Even the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Zakharova, Lavrov, everybody reiterated that the presence of Western troops in Ukraine will make them legitimate targets.
Oh, absolutely. Well, yeah. Why wouldn't they be legitimate targets? What message do you think that this sends to sort of NATO as a whole? Because, we do have the narrative floating in Europe that Russia's going to invade Europe. And I mean, don't you think that this kind of gives some credence to that?
No, that Russia's going to invade Europe.
Yeah, I'm just playing devil's advocate.
no, and I think that a lot of people are saying that, like the Kaja Kallas crew and the Ursula von der Leyen crew are all foaming at the mouth, saying that the Russians are at the door. They're not. They're simply saying, look, we are conducting these strikes within Ukrainian territory, which is the country that we are currently at war with in this special military operation. Those strikes have not gone beyond the internationally recognized borders of Ukraine, and therefore there's not going to be anything to that effect that I can imagine coming up. So there's no chance at all. Even Putin has said it. All the Russians up and down the political aisle in different ministries have all said, look, we're not interested in a war with Europe. But if a war comes to us from Europe, we are ready to fight. And Russia remains at the standby, ready to deploy all assets available to defend its territory. That includes, for example, Kaliningrad, which is being a source of a lot of discussion, as well as other territories, especially in Eastern Europe.
Well, I do want to play this clip, and then I want to get your thoughts.
Is there anything that could stop you if you wanted to?
Yeah, there's one thing: my own morality, my own mind. It's the only thing that can stop, and that's law. Very good. I don't need international law. I'm not looking to hurt people.
Do you feel your administration needs to abide by international law on the global stage?
Yeah, I do. I do. But it depends what your definition of international law is. You mean in Greenland?
In Greenland we had
because you needed them at the time.
In the 1951 agreement, though, it says the United States can reopen these bases anytime you want. You can send as many troops as you want, and you haven't done it. How come?
Because I want to do it properly.
And properly means own it?
Really, it is. To me, it's ownership. Ownership is very important.
Why is ownership important here?
Because it's what I feel is psychologically needed for success. I think that ownership gives you a thing that you can't do, whether you're talking about a lease or a treaty. Ownership gives you things and elements that you can't get from just signing.
The reason why I played it is because I want to kind of contrast this with Russia's actions and statements, and if there's any reaction in Russia to this sort of saying like we're flouting international law and we're defining it ourselves.
I think there's a big internal discussion within Russia, and you know as well as I do that Russia always, like every other country, has its hardliners and its more patriotic nationalist wing, and it's much more reformist liberal wing. And you can imagine those who went through the Yeltsin years and who were basically formed through that experience. I think that the Russians are now debating amongst themselves what it looks like to defend their interests in a world where the United States, as the unipolar power for decades since the collapse, and now with this emerging multipolar world, what it looks like for the United States to flaunt basically open aggression and not abide by anything in terms of international law, not to mention remove itself from all these international organizations and structures. So the Russians and the Chinese still want to play by the UN ball, so to speak. They still want to use the charter. They still believe in international law and international norms and standards. However, the Americans are openly saying we can kidnap presidents, we can seize oil tankers, we can threaten our allies to seize massive territory, we can embolden our vassals and proxies to launch aggressive strikes and to continue their aggression where they're at. And here I'm speaking about the Zionists. So I think that the Russians and the Chinese really need to do some soul searching and to basically say, are they prepared to pay the price of going back to a Cold War mentality where it's okay, we're going to defend our territory and our allies with maximum military might. And if that means conscription and remilitarization of the society, basically like a Songun-style politics, then so be it. But unless that happens, then Russia and China will be on the back foot for a long time coming. And people have been saying, for example, oh, the US just wants to carve up the world for its sphere and then give the other spheres. That's not true. If that were true, the United States would still not be meddling in the Middle East, and we have Iran going on, would still not be supporting Israel to the hilt, would still not be sending weapons and giving intelligence to the Ukrainians to continue to launch strikes within Russia, would not be this pivot to the Pacific. So people have got to understand that this whole charade about Dunroad Doctrine and we only want our area, that's not true. The United States wants the neocon project for the new American century path. They're trying to bamboozle as many people as possible into believing it, and then, of course, to strike them hard from below. And that's why I feel that Iran and many of these other sort of zones of conflict are so essential to the stability of Eurasia and to the multipolar world, because if Iran falls and becomes a Western proxy, it reveals the soft underbelly of Russia, and it blocks all trade that China wants to do overland, below the Caspian Sea. And that's huge. I mean, that is a major, major defeat. So we really have to look at this in its proper context. I think the Russians, some are understanding it. Some are like, okay, let's just do business and see what we can get out of this. But I honestly think, don't forget, we have midterm elections coming. We've got elections in 2 years' time for the presidency. Lord have mercy if the Democrat comes in that's even more Russophobic and things like that, and we have renewed sanctions and things. I mean, it's going to create internal problems and dynamics within Russia and China for how to proceed and what military and political doctrine look like going forward in the coming decade.
Oh yeah, and while we're still kind of on the topic of NATO, I do want to get your thoughts on it. Seems NATO is getting kind of sandwiched, and you know what? I really don't feel bad for Europe at all. Sorry.
No.
Thank you. And the policy question: how much money are you thinking of giving people in Greenland to get them on board with a possible U.S.
I'm not talking about money for Greenland yet. I might talk about that. But right now, we are going to do something on Greenland, whether they like it or not, because if we don't do it, Russia or China will take over Greenland, and we're not going to have Russia or China as a neighbor. Okay? I would like to make a deal, the easy way, but if we don't do it the easy way, we're going to do it the hard way. And by the way, I'm a fan of Denmark too. I have to tell you, and they've been very nice to me. I'm a big fan, but the fact that they had a boat land there 500 years ago doesn't mean that they own the land. I'm sure we had lots of boats go there also, but
Where do we start? First of all, he sounds exactly like BB. If we don't do it the easy way, we'll do it the hard way.
If we don't take it, somebody else is going to take it.
He's done the meme twice this week. That's the first of them. Secondly, we already have Russia as a neighbor. They're like 55 miles away.
And not even that, the big Diomede, little Diomede. The whole point of Alaska was to show that, oh, we are actually share a maritime border. Oh, look at that. You know, we bought this huge chunk of land from Russia and everything's kumbaya. Like the whole like Kirill Dmitriev perspective was, oh, we're neighbors, we can invest, we can be friends. And now look, Trump's openly saying, I don't want them as a neighbor. Well, they're already your neighbor. Like, what's going on, bro? Like, you just had a meeting in Alaska just months ago. Like, what's the issue here? But you see where this is headed.
It's insane. It's insane. And you know, I won't get into it because so many other shows already have, and the information's out there. You don't need me to go over it again, but we obviously know that a lot of the motivation behind Greenland is to put data centers up there. Ron Lauder is buying the place up. They want to put air defense stuff up there because, you know, Russia and China. It's just getting completely. But what do you think about it from the NATO perspective? Everybody that I've spoken to thinks they're Americans, but they thought that that Denmark would probably wind up selling Greenland to the United States.
NATO would not. I mean, these countries are not capable of having a war with the United States. I mean, the U.S. troops are already in Europe. All they have to do is march across the border from wherever they are, from Germany, from wherever, and that's the end of that. There's no way. I think that Denmark would be forced at great pain to sell it, or I mean, the other possibility is that you could see riots and demonstrations on Greenland itself against a U.S. occupation, and it could be framed that way. But as we know through history, nobody's going to care. Nobody's going to say a word. People are going to lodge, protests at the UN and other international, institutions. The ICJ is going to make a ruling, and who gives a fuck ultimately? The United States will do what it wants until somebody is powerful enough, like the Soviet Union was, to basically say, to bang a shoe on a desk or on like a podium and say, look, you want to play? We'll play. You put Jupiter missiles in Turkey, we're going to put nuclear missiles in Cuba. And now let's see where the game's afoot, So, but until we get to that point, I cannot foresee any way to challenge U.S. hegemony, except from within the U.S. At this point, we cannot be too optimistic that somehow Russia and China are going to come out in their current states and save the day. It's just not going to happen.
Oh, we've got Scotland. We need to go to Scotland. I would love to go to Scotland. It's like being in the UK without really being in the UK,
Yeah.
But what does this say about NATO? Because now we have Russia's kind of sending messages from the east. Kaya Kallas is scared to death. She really is. It's really funny. And Trump says we can walk in there and just take it. Like, they could if they really wanted to. And so the people that live there are just an occupied people. I can't remember their actual name, not Greenlanders. I don't remember their indigenous name, but yeah, exactly. Nobody's going to care. But then what does that say about NATO? If Trump can just walk around NATO stealing territories, is something else up for grabs?
I think we could see the collapse of NATO, to be honest.
That's what I mean. Yeah.
Yeah, and of course that bodes well for many. But what is NATO but nice garnishing around U.S. raw power? So the fact that NATO won't exist at this point doesn't change the fact that the U.S. is really the main instigator. It was the U.S. in Yugoslavia, it was the U.S. in Libya, it was the U.S. in Syria, it was the U.S. everywhere in Iraq and Afghanistan, anywhere with an international NATO coalition, it was the U.S. leading the charge. It was the U.S. first in line. So even if NATO as a structure collapses, which would be a historic right, it still doesn't change the power dynamic, which is that the U.S. is a much more emboldened imperialist power now, and much more raw and naked in its power and use of that power. And everybody's got to got to understand that, and then take the necessary steps to defend their sovereignty and their territorial integrity, or else pieces are just going to disappear off the map into the U.S. beast.
Or maybe the EU just becomes like United States.
Yeah. Maybe it becomes,
The EU was made by the United States.
Ultimately,
I didn't know they were named Inuit too, or Kalalit Nunat. Well, speaking of ice, we'll get into it. But first, a little bit of levity. What? I mean, it's like Marie Antoinette. It really is. She's incredible. She is like Stephen Miller. You know, he's an absolute piece of shit. So you expect it. She's just she's incredible. She's nuts. Nuts. We posted an old clip from her today where she goes, I mean, you just can't trust the government. And
I saw that.
You are the government. Well, yeah, that's what I mean.
Yeah, exactly. So cell phone right there. They're not even smart enough to know when they cell phone, and they don't even care because who's paying attention, you know, ultimately. So I'm telling you that, I think the brazenness and the open militarization of the police now that we're seeing, the use of police domestically, the use of different law enforcement agencies to kill American citizens is appalling. It really is. I mean, this week I have been shocked and really saddened by the killing that happened. I have been shocked at some of the MAGA crowd that were all about, small government, police state, Patriot Act, and they want worse than the Patriot Act now. They want a surveillance state that pales in comparison, that makes the Chinese state pale in comparison to the U.S. Like, that's what they want. And Palantir, you have all these CEOs saying, we're ready for war. We're ready to do it. We're ready to lock in there. And I don't know. It's sick. It's scary. The stuff that I'm going to show, like the stuff in this segment is quite scary. There's no like gore or blood or anything like that. It's just psychologically scary. So I do want to warn you of that, but nothing, no violence or anything like that. But I can't remember if it was a Wall Street Journal, maybe WAPO or New York Times. I get them all confused, but they did an incredible report. She's not the first. They have been harming people all over America. Oh, yeah. And it's a pattern. And I don't know that I'm not going to get into the debate about, like, just like I did with Charlie Kirk. I don't care about bullet angles, trajectories, blood splatter. I don't care about any of it. Look at how people acted immediately following. Mm-hmm. Crazy. It's crazy. And, I just really can't, you really got to take a step back. And I'm going to use Gustavo Petro to like, when people from other places see this, you guys have to understand. I mean, thankfully, a lot of our viewers are international, but Americans need to understand that we're like frogs in a pot. Other people looking in are like, what the fuck is going on over there? And here's Gustavo Petro.
Para nosotros, ICE funciona igual que las brigadas nazis y que las brigadas italianas del fascio. Ya no solo persigue latinoamericanos por las calles, que para nosotros es una afrenta, sino que mata ciudadanos de Estados Unidos.
Now, I want you to think about the historical parallels. I really do, because this is a Latin American looking in and watching Latin Americans get killed, detained, put into camps, separated from their families, disappeared. In El Salvador, they're forced to work in a labor camp. I don't know, man. Except this one's built by the Zionists.
Well, it's a real inversion of Arbeit macht frei. It's like, it's yikes, makes one wonder and think.
It's almost like, exactly. How much was a lie? And you see this really interesting alliance come forth, right? Because a lot of these ICE agents are Nazis, extremists, old operators that got kicked out of the military, ex-cons. You got to read some of these articles. Some of these guys have criminal backgrounds. They cannot read or write. They're failing drug tests and they're sending them out anyway. They're failing all kinds of tests and they're sending them out anyway. So we have this really interesting alliance between these sort of extremist shock troops. You know, you haven't heard from the Proud Boys lately, have you? Yeah, they're all employed. These shock troops kind of fanning out, and the Zionists are right there cheering them on. Oh yeah, go look up. The ICE has a consulate. They have a field office in Tel Aviv.
Why does ICE field office in Tel Aviv? You know,
I had 3 people from the Levant message me the day that Renee was shot and said they look like the IDF.
Yeah, of course. Somebody Palestinian going through a checkpoint and then, getting spooked and just trying to move their vehicle, and all of a sudden they get shot and killed.
Exactly.
Not only women, pregnant women, old people, like you name it. You name it. They've just shot at people.
And a $50,000 sign-up bonus, correct. After the guy shot Renee, ICE went to his house in their signature balaclavas or whatever. ICE went to his house and cleaned it out of everything, took his computers, took all of his stuff, and basically the guy fled with his wife.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
This is insane. Nick, send the link in the chat if you want, or I'll share it on the DD account. A hotspot video on, and if you guys aren't following Hotspot, you need to. There's a lot more sinister stuff going on with ICE. This is a warning for some. It's sort of sensitive, but there's nothing visual, just what's implied.
Y agarraron a alguien.
¿Qué? ¿Por qué?
Agarraron a alguien, llevan a alguien.
¿Cierto?
Why is an ICE agent taking a woman into a porta potty? She's cuffed.
Sick shit. That's all I have to say.
I don't know what the fuck is going on. But here's the thing, and there's an article that's made the rounds. It was an Air Force general that said, I'll bomb American citizens if the order was lawful. He stumbled his way through that. And so I saw this today because sometimes I don't believe that people like this exist because I'm like, wow, that's crazy. That's not even that crazy. Watch this.
No, it's because you're in a cult.
What if Donald Trump says, I want you to carpet bomb Oklahoma City, kill everyone? You think the Air Force should carry that out?
Yes. There might be a reason. We don't know.
This is insane.
You cannot be this stupid. Jesus Christ.
Oh, my. This podcast was going well until that.
You just said it's cool. We levels Oklahoma. You're like, yeah, it. There must be a reason. You literally can't be that dumb.
You know what the problem is? Mom and I don't believe he'll ever blow up Oklahoma because we're on his side and so's the whole state.
No, it's because you're in a cult.
You guys are worried and afraid because you live in a state where it might happen.
Okay, let's theoretically say that does happen. Let's say Trump sends in the Marines to Los Angeles, California, and let's say I'm out going to see a movie on a weekend, and he says, go into that shopping mall.
Under a truck.
Quiet piggy. He says, go into that shopping mall and kill everyone you see. And let's say I get gunned down by the Marines for just being at a mall.
Okay, number one.
All four.
Let's just take it
Dad,
one step
wait a minute,
further.
Mom, wait 1 second. Dad, hang on, Mom. Dad, you just said you are for Donald Trump murdering me for no reason, and you would support that.
If he walks into a mall to people with military,
there has to be a reason.
There's a reason. And I'm all for it. And the people in Los Angeles, California are as deserving of execution as the assholes in New York City. You're all communists.
You're mad because you live in a city that might get bombed. This is a conversation, a domestic city, Los Angeles. And we'd be okay with that. That's their son. When people say stuff like, oh, civil war is coming, I'm like, shut up, QAnon. Or I'm like, maybe I just put, because I don't really get too involved in the American kind of left and right stuff. I don't really get too involved in that. I just see it as one.
You know, I come from a country, and the reason why I was born where I was and my family left was because of the Greek Civil War on my mom's side. And you know, one of the things that I've studied, and I wrote a thesis about the execution of my grandfather's brother, was that in the Greek Civil War, you had exactly that, but on a mass nationwide level. So it was like, okay, you know, one side of the family are with Stalin, you know, we're going to all murder them. And then the other side of the family were with the monarchy or with Hitler or with the other Axis powers. We're going to murder them. The problem is that over 1 million people were killed, and it completely destroyed Greek society from then on. Greece has never recovered from the Greek Civil War. And I have, you know, a word of warning to all of those, because I grew up in a family that survived it and that was traumatized by it. When civil war comes, nobody's spared. No man, woman, child, no animal, no livestock, no house, no valuables, nothing is spared. It tears apart everything. It destroys everything. And once you unleash those forces, you can never put the genie back, you know. And I think that people who are gunning for a civil war in the US do not understand the full ramifications. Not only did my family live through a civil war, I fought in a civil war type scenario, of course, in Syria, although it was a regime change war. It was called a civil war, but it really was a regime change war. But in any case, every village was affected, every little hamlet, every little community in Syria where I was affected by it, had experienced tremendous loss because of it. The loss of life was astronomical. And I just, I hope that people really understand that war is not just games and fun. You know, it's a very serious and deadly thing. And people who are advocating for it, like those parents just nonchalantly, I hope they're on the front lines, because they're the first ones to go down, you know. And I think it's sick. I think it's depraved. I think it's satanic, to be honest with you. No person who is moral and ethical wants war to begin with. It might be necessary. I'm not saying that it's not always necessary. It might be necessary. I mean, fighting back against Nazism was necessary. But, you know, to openly advocate, I could never imagine, with all the kids that I have, openly wanting them to die like that. Okay, even if one became a Nazi, I would, trust me, I'm going to put him in my rehabilitation camp and I'll take care of them. But to openly advocate for them to be gunned down by, I don't know, it's sick. It's sick shit. I don't know what to say.
We have Nick's video up, so I'm going to play that.
A retired Green Beret whistleblower exposes the fact that ICE and other three-letter agencies actively trains with the IDF and learns from Israeli apartheid tactics.
Look at what's happening every day. I've been there. I have trained with them. I have been to Israel, where ICE agents and DEA agents and other three-letter agencies train with the Israelis, with the gendarmerie and the Israeli police force, training with them. And they bring those tactics back here. The oppression that we export, we bring it right back here. We bomb boats off the coast of Venezuela. We blow up Colombians in fishing boats and say, oops. If you don't think that won't come to your neighborhood, think again. I have seen it. It is coming. ICE agents train in Israel, and they bring that back here, and they bring the same tactics. You don't have to read the secret files to see what's happening on our streets every day.
This comes as Americans are furious that the ICE Gestapo is gunning down Americans in the streets. Why are Americans surprised? This is a perfect example of the imperial boomerang in action. The imperial boomerang theory is the idea that the violence that you export overseas will always find its way back home. The United States is the #1 exporter of terrorism and genocide around the world. Meanwhile, people are surprised that the United States is also an extremely violent society. When you give your government permission to slaughter people all over the world and lie about it, do you believe that they're above lying to you about an American that they murdered on video? They told you that Nicolas Maduro was a dictator. They told you that Hamas were terrorists. They tell you that Israel is not committing a genocide, that there's no Nazis in Ukraine, that there's weapons of mass destruction. They told you lie after lie, but you believe that they're going to tell you the truth about an American that they murdered on video?
So I believe it's Gustavo Petro who also said it's a Cesare quote, isn't it? And it's the politics is politics is a boomerang. I always just chickens coming home to roost, bring the war home. I mean, I think we talked about it on Wednesday, but literally there were Black Hawks over Minneapolis, like it was Mogadishu.
Mm-hmm.
Like I don't know what other signs people really need. It's kind of getting out of hand, and we're going to get even more into it. But I think that I don't think it's as just. We'll continue. We'll continue. I'll develop this theory as we go. But I'm going to use this very amazing video to segue into our next segment.
So what's funny to me is when is violence, when is protest, when is this all acceptable?
But isn't that the same though? Where's the protest against the regime that's killing people in the street right now? I mean, I don't see anybody in Colombia.
Well, they're doing those today, and it's called the ICE protests.
Well, but they're talking about Iran at the ICE protests?
No, I think they're talking about the regime that's shooting people in the face. I mean, I think it's a very American idea to not want police forces to be able to shoot Americans indiscriminately. And the idea that J.D. Vance says is that they should have absolute immunity. I thought this guy was a hillbilly. He had a book, Hillbilly Elegy. And I can tell you, hillbilly values, at least from where I'm from in Appalachia, are that the government ought not be able to have absolute immunity when they shoot you in the face. But maybe we came from a different Appalachia.
So really poignant commentary on the day that Trump is threatening to. I actually ran. So today for today's show outline, I just asked AI to give me the summary of the topics I wanted, because I was like, I'm lazy and I can just do this and wing it. And what AI came with about Iran, it's like 500 people or more are being killed every night. I was like, what? What?
Yeah, you've lost the plot.
Yeah, it was crazy. And this is also interesting. Speaking of saying the quiet part out loud, I think that disease has infected the UK pretty badly.
Starlink systems, these internet Starlink systems, built by Elon Musk's company, they had been smuggled into the country over the last few years by NGOs.
NGOs have been smuggling Starlink system. What else have they been smuggling in?
Weapons.
Yeah. Iranian. Yeah, exactly.
Even years ago, he was like, "Oh yeah, that whole like northern Kurdistan, like that area in northern Iraq. Yeah, we're bringing weapons through there into Iranian Kurdistan and the neighboring areas. Absolutely." And that's what they were doing. They were funneling weapons in there. It was well established. It was part of the ongoing, regime change efforts. Not to mention in the south, in border of Pakistan, in Baluchistan, of course, U.S. has long-standing networks there as well, going back to the Mujahideen. So why not also smuggle weapons there and use that also as a fifth column to strike against the Islamic Republic? Of course, it's part of the playbook here.
And here's who's commenting. These are the big Iranian diaspora stars. You could check out their locations. X is doing their own sort of like color revolution. We got to change. We're changing the flag over there too. It's like if we just play like a lot. Like if we just will this into reality, then like it is so. Here's another one. This is psychotic. I believe that was a protester. Somebody said that. Yeah, it was done today, so the embassy's closed. So don't get excited. But yeah, so I mean that's quite symbolic. And up here, of course, here is the spokesperson for all of this.
هدف ما دیگر صرفاً آمدن به خیابان نیست. هدف آمادگی برای تسخیر مراکز شهرها و حفظ آنهاست. برای رسیدن به این هدف تا حد امکان از مسیرهای مختلف به سوی بخش‌های مرکزی‌تر شهرها حرکت کنید.
This is bananas.
It is bananas.
And I feel like they're just going to keep going until the Iranians can until they can't sustain it anymore.
Oh yeah, and look, you do see Reza Pahlavi going and flying to Iran to go join the struggle. No, he's comfortable in the U.S. and he's going to wait until all the blood is shed over there. And if, for example, the government were to fall, he can waltz in there and just take hold of power as if he was, granted to it by God. It's sick stuff. It's sick. It's sick. These people, and also this whole exactly. So they need democracy and they want to install a monarchy. It's unbelievable. Like the whole narrative about Iran needs democracy, and then they're bringing back the son of the former king. Like, does it make sense to you? Not to mention, a lot of these protests have been fighting amongst one another. Like there's inter-protest fighting because you have the Iranian monarchists out there who are to a greater or lesser extent allied with a lot of other people. Then you have Iranian leftists, like ultra-leftists who are out there. You have Iranians who are supporting, for example, the regional separatism, like the Kurdish movement, Baluchistan, Azeris, Arabs. And then you have also the Mujahideen Khalq. You have all of, Mariam Rajavi's cult. So you have all these people out there. They're not even unified. If Iran's government were to collapse tomorrow, theoretically, which I do not believe it's going to by any possibility, what's to say that Iran isn't going to go the way of Yugoslavia and get all divided up? Because all these people are like, we're going to have a strong, united Iran. Says who? Says who? I don't think anybody wants that, actually, in the West. I think they want a divided Iran. It helps them a lot for their own goals in the region,
Yeah, and here's this funny comment that I'm just going to piggyback off of. Patrick Star of David said he wants to run Iran and that he was inspired by Maria Corina Machado. Well, if he's inspired by Maria Corina Machado, that it should be exiled somewhere else because Corina Machado is in Europe, I think. And she has no intention of going back to Venezuela to rule. So if he's inspired by her.
Also, you know what? All these people, he changed his name. Patrick Bet David is not his real name, right?
No, he's Armenian.
Well, no. He changed that. It's actually not the name that he was born with. If you look it up, he actually has a different name. He changed it so it could be more nice sounding for his podcasts and for the American ears. I don't trust anyone like that. I'm proud of my name and I won't change it for anybody. I don't care what anybody says. I love all my names that were given to me by both the Greek and Iranian side, and I won't change it. I don't trust anybody who changes their names because they want to please the West. They're the worst, in my opinion. I know. Look at that.
Everything is such a cartoon. It's all such a show. Here's Mike Johnson.
Some of these things were discussed in the skiff. I want to say that the way that this is being described, I think, is accurate. This is not a regime change. This is a demand for a change of behavior by a regime.
The kidnappings will continue until behavior improves. This is So anyway, they had a convoy of the State Department went to Caracas. And as soon as that happened, there was a warning that came out from the State Department. And they said, get out of Venezuela or don't travel to Venezuela. And and immediately following that, do I have that media asset? Yeah, I'll play the video in a second. The producer just uploaded a video. All right, I'll play that now, and then I'll play I'll go back into the Venezuelan thing. Where is the video? It's not even on there.
Do we have it?
No, he's like messaging me about a video. He's like, there's a video. Anyway, so the convoy goes to Caracas And then the big warning comes out about don't travel to Venezuela or whatever. Then the Venezuelans rebut that. And they say, we never said that. This is the Trump administration trying to increase instability here. Here is the oil CEOs.
Mm-hmm. With respect to Venezuela in particular, we have a very long history in Venezuela. In fact, we first got into Venezuela back in 1940s. We've had our assets seized there twice. And so you can imagine to re-enter a third time would require some pretty significant changes from what we've historically seen here and what is currently the state. If we look at the legal and commercial constructs and frameworks in place today in Venezuela, today it's uninvestable. And so significant changes have to be made to those commercial frameworks, the legal system. There has to be durable investment protections, and there has to be a change to the hydrocarbon laws in the country. We're confident that with this administration and President Trump working hand in hand with the Venezuelan government, that those changes can be put in place.
That means the whole system got to go. Yeah. That means boots on the ground, or the whole system got to go. That's what that means. The United States military is the mercenary force for the oil companies. I'll play this really fast, and then we're going right back to Venezuela. Here is the Iranians on their opinions on Trump.
پیامی دادید نسبت به ترامپ به خاطر گزاف گروهی که
ترامپ من آدم حساب نمی‌کنم باش حرف بزن بری بمیره.
من معترضم ولی بخواد پای این لجنزارا و صهیونیست و سکتوله‌هاش جا باز بشه نه. ما هرچی هم با هم دیگه مشکل داشته باشیم ولی این که بخواید اینجا قد علم کنید نه. ما هستیم جونمون رو پای این کشور می‌ذاریم.
هیچ کشوری به ایران من نمی‌تونه دست بزنه.
یا فریب خوردن یا کلا از جاهای دیگه اومدن. ما مردم تهرانیم و باشون وایسادیم. کسی که از این خاک از این مرزبون باشه آرامش مردمش رو به هم نمیزنه.
ارزشو ندارم. ما یکی وجب از خاک ایرانمون رو بهشون نمیدیم. ما تمام فدای رهبرمون، فدای کشورمون خیلی شدیداً باید مجازات بشن.
ببین اون موقعی که 8 سال ما جنگیدیم یه سیم خاردار هم نداشتیم. الان که دیگه در حدی نیست. نه اینجا ونزوئلاست که بخوای شبونه بخوای یه بازی سوری رو نه عزیز دریا نجس نمیشه با این صحبت‌ها. جان ما و همه ایرانی‌ها فدای رهبر ما. یه سری اونور مرز یه خیالای باطلی کردن.
رهبر
جانم فدای رهبر بدون هیچ نگرانی از نگاه‌های دوستان آشنایان
من اسم یه سری گرونی‌ها یه سری اتفاقات هستیم ولی هیچ
عاشقتم آقا جون چی بگم جونمو برات میدم هرچی دستور بدی دستور بده با کله بریم تو شکمشون هرچی شما بگید
من واقعا تا جون دارم و شب دوست داشتم
مردم ایران همونطوری که تا الان بودن باید چشمشون فقط به سخن رهبری باشه کلام ایشون همه رو آروم میکنه
سید علی عاشقتم عاشقتم عاشقتم
I'm glad I played it. I'm glad that got me really hype.
That's the truth. That's the truth on the ground.
Beautiful.
And they said it. They said, look, people are upset about a lot of issues. It does not mean they want to overthrow the government. Doesn't mean they want regime change. They're going to address the issues as every country does from below with the institutions. But if anybody thinks that you can put all this economic coercion, somehow everyone wants to overthrow the system, no, not going to happen. Not that easy.
And that was Ari that posted that. Photros Resistance. You guys follow that. He's amazing with Levantine reporting, especially Iran and Syria. Just really great primary source. So we have the oil CEO saying, it's still too unstable. We've had our assets stolen twice. You got to figure out how to stabilize that place. And here's Trump doing the meme again.
One thing I think everyone has to know is that if we didn't do this, China or Russia would have done it. And if China or Russia were a next-door neighbor, because essentially this is not around the other parts of the world so far away where you fly in an airplane for 24 hours before you get there. This is sort of a next-door neighbor, if you think about it.
If we don't steal the oil, someone else is gonna. I mean, he really is the first Jewish president.
Oh, my God.
I mean, they said it. I mean, he's literally like little. He's not even little. He's like just a big retarded BB.
Yeah, that's him.
So Europe's being sandwiched in a way. At least, well, it's actually kind of like Trump. He's trying to hand over Western Ukraine to the Zionist oligarchs, i.e. Ron Lauder and Larry fucking Fink. Then we have Greenland, where he's selling it off piece by piece to the tech bros and Ron Lauder. And what's his name? Paul Singer. Then we get to South America, and we have the Venezuela thing, which is also a Paul Singer thing, and the oil bros and all that stuff. We know about that. This story came to me. When did I start talking about it? Maybe Wednesday night. I just saw
this past week.
Yeah, I saw a post about these insane fires in Patagonia, and I was like, "Well, what the hell is going on?" And so I started researching the fire, and I was reading posts from South America and going through them, and some weird saying kept coming up and up and up again, over and over and over again, called Plan Andinia. And I was like, what? And so I went down a rabbit hole, and this is crazy. So there is, and guys, I highly recommend you read the article. It's free, no paywall. It's full of a lot of primary resources and stories. So there is an enormous fire in Patagonia right now. I think it's at 5,500 hectares. It's probably more today. Now, they're like, it's insane. It's absolutely insane here. And so I went and I researched the article. And while I was researching the article, I held a space. This wonderful guy from Buenos Aires came and he spoke to us. And this is my first original video. I made this entire video myself. But I think it encapsulates a lot of what's going on from someone who is there.
I would like to tell you a little bit, because I'm from Buenos Aires. Yes, in Argentina, we all love Patagonia and we are suffering like shit. I'm here to tell you that you're discussing Plan Andinia, and we are seeing it, and it's happening. I don't know if you can look in my, I don't know how to say this, wall.
Your timeline, yep.
Profile, yes. And you can see that from the last 15 years, it's happening that some tourists, I don't know how to say this, entre comillas, they are not tourists. They come to Patagonia, they keep trashing everything, and these wildfires are happening since 2010, 2008, even before that. And it's crazy, and I believe that it's happening right now, the Plan Andinia. Why? Because Milei, our president, just erased 2 laws of our constitution.
Milei actually took a law away. So these forested lands in Patagonia are considered protective native forest. When the fire burns, before they were always protected. When the fire burns down now, they become unprotected due to a law that Milei eradicated. The Constitution protected those lands permanently. The provision that was taken out by Milei. Now, when the fires burn the forest down, the land's no longer protected, and it becomes federal, and he can sell it.
Exactly.
This story is gut-wrenching.
That is insane.
This entire story is only second to what is happening in the Levant, in West Asia. This is the most heartbreaking, gut-wrenching story I've seen in a long time. The videos are all over Twitter. They caught an Israeli tourist already setting these fires. They've also found Israeli grenades in the debris. Okay, I went right down this rabbit hole. Guys, I'm going to put a link to a documentary in the StreamYard. Now, this isn't like one of those weird bitch shoot rumble documentaries. This is a documentary that the Islam channel in the UK put together recently. I believe it was 2019 or 2020. It aired on regular television. The Jews flipped out. It had to be pulled, and they were fined and forced to apologize. So here is that link. I'll put it in the chat. Plan Andinia is something that Theodore Herzl came up with.
Wait, it's a Herzl thing?
Argentina was proposed as an alternative to Palestine, Uganda as well. I nearly sobbed when I found out. Like, this is like Somaliland. Like, when I found out about the Harar plan, I was like, does it ever end? Does this really ever end? And then everything starts to come together. Oh my God, Elon pushing Milei. Oh my God, they basically ousted or manipulated the election to get rid of the leftist government in Chile. I went and looked into Chile. One of our admins, she's fantastic. She's from Chile. And she recalls this as well. There was a case in 2012. An Israeli came to Chile, set the place on fire, and went home. He paid a fine and went home. Said it was an accident. So here is the spokesperson for the Milei presidential office talking about the laws that they're eradicating.
En cuanto a tierras rurales, se libera la compra por parte de privados extranjeros. También se elimina la prohibición de cambiar la actividad productiva del campo por 30, 60 años tras un incendio, una ley del diputado Máximo Kirchner que atenta directamente contra la producción.
So, like I said in the video with Danny, there was a protection in the Constitution. Argentinians and Chileans are very attached to Patagonia. And there was a provision in the Argentine Constitution that's provided that those lands were protected indefinitely only the vegetation is protected. So once it's gone, that's it. It becomes federal.
I need my conspiracy cap again. I don't know. I need the big hat.
Wait, I'll just let the people there do the talking. Here we go. Here's the firefighters.
Estamos sorprendidos de que nos prendan fuego a la Patagonia. Sabemos que es a propósito. Lo tenemos recontra en claro que hay poderes que están del lado, tienen un interés inmobiliario, tienen interés minero, y es algo que ya últimamente lo hacen en nuestra cara y ni siquiera lo disimulan. No tienen nada, o sea, no lo disimulan porque tienen todo de su lado.
Yeah, I don't need to tell you. I was afraid I was going to get called a conspiracy theorist. Then I started finding all the videos from the ground. Here's another.
Pero lo que más te duele es el alma y el corazón cuando ves a la gente que se quedó sin nada, cuando ves los animales muertos. Nosotros hacemos colecta, yo no puedo ni hablar de la angustia que tenemos, nosotros vivimos acá. Este lugar para nosotros es el paraíso y nos quemaron el paraíso, loco. Nos dejaron, arruinaron todo. Y acá lo que pasa es que están queriendo venderle la Patagonia a todos los judíos, loco. Esto se sabe hace un montón, acá todo el mundo lo sabe, está lleno de israelitas, está todo el mundo comprando la tierra, nadie hace nada y la única gente que pone el pecho es la gente que perdió todo. Acá nos dejaron solos.
Ustedes las recibieron y las van repartiendo.
Yo en mi casa pidiéndole a todos los vecinos, a la gente de Bariloche que me dé una mano y toda la gente que está acá, como él, perdió su casa el año pasado y estamos acá peleándola. Porque nos dejaron solos totalmente. Como sabe todo el mundo, acá se sacaron toda la plata que estaba puesta para los incendios y nadie hace nada, no se recibe ayuda de ningún lado.
Milei has slashed all of those. 85% to the firefighting budget. Gone. Chainsaw capitalism. We told you anarcho-capitalism was fake and gay and dumb. No. Elon said we got to make it all of Latin America.
And this connects to the Isaac Accords that we've been talking about. Everything is connected here, people. Everything is connected.
That's why this show is so good. This show is so good. I didn't even talk about this one thing. People are just posting this today. We talked about the Pam Bondi memo a month ago to tell you guys about the labels of domestic terrorism. All of this stuff is tying in together. Gustavo Petro is telling you politics is a boomerang. So the people are also saying everything happening in Gaza, it's coming right back here. If you watch that documentary I showed you in there, same thing. It's all connected. And then this is why it came to my theory. I'm not like Israel is just a node in this network of this overarching. And I believe that Ron Lauder and the World Jewish Congress have a lot more power than people are really letting on. I think they should just take out the Jewish and just say World Congress. I think that's really what's going on. That man is buying up and being handed more stuff than I've ever seen in the very strategic, interesting places: Greenland, Ukraine, Venezuela, Patagonia. It's very interesting. I think that Israel was just a tool. These people know that Israel is not sustainable in its current state. They have a lot of little Israels all over the place. New York City.
Taiwan. Give me Taiwan. We have a flush.
Taiwan, Kosovo. All little Israels all over the place. I'm gonna keep posting, you guys, and keep posting about the fires in Argentina and translating what I can for you. I'm not gonna go too into detail because the article is exhaustive and Chris is struggling through the episode. He's not feeling well, but the article is exhaustive. The documentary is an incredible resource if you're not an article person, and the space. And I'm sure we'll be holding more and more spaces on this as more things develop. I also want to say, I just posted on the big account a video from Chile. They're in the streets in mass protesting out of Chile, out of Argentina, all of Zionism, out of Latin America.
Oh, wow.
Argentines are threatening to start arming themselves. Here's the article. And look at what the result has been. They at least had to give a little bit. And Argentina said today they will halt the move to Jerusalem. They're saying it's over the Falkland Islands, but they're facing a very large uprising inside of Argentina right now.
Are we in the Alas Barricadas moment? Are we?
I don't know, man. Latin America's might be our only hope. In the Western Hemisphere, they might be our only hope.
I hope so.
I'm going just to keep posting about South and Latin and South America, because I feel like I almost feel guilty. I feel like I said, when I realized Planet Andinia, I was also like, how did I not know about this? Why did I neglect South America for that long and not like actually learn about it? And now it's like too late almost. I don't know. The whole thing makes me incredibly worried, and I love South Americans. Like, I feel like those are like our people. I don't know why. Maybe it's just a American thing.
Same vibe. They've got the Balkan vibe. They've got the, they're sort of like, we're all Latinas, sort of, they got that vibe. There's definitely a continuity between Latin America, the Mediterranean, the Middle East, Eastern Europe. We've got that vibe.
And I'm going to get through the super chats, and then I'm going to leave you with our outro, which is a great interview that was featured on the Gray Zone by, what's the Urgente? Let me get the real name so I don't. Urgent Data. So Data Urgente. He's really great. He has a Telegram channel. He has a website, and then he was interviewed on the Gray Zone, and he goes very much in depth. There's also Jose Nino, who writes for the Occidental Observer. If you're into a more further right sort of take on this, he is an English speaker, and we might have him on the show. We'll see how that works. I'm trying to get some sort of Latin American panel together. But let me get through these super chats, and I'll leave you guys with that outro. Hussein, Uncle Haz, Abujan, thank you so much for always coming and supporting. I'll put up Mo again just because it's Mo. And thank you as always, Rohima.
Thank you.
Please follow Nick on Hotspot. He's banned on YouTube again. Is this that again? Oh, all right. Banks create deposits when you have first access. You always speak in riddles. I like it. It's like a fortune cookie. Anyway.
Solidarity with Nick.
Solidarity with Nick. Solidarity with our Latin and South American people. We have good news for you. Tomorrow we have a special edition stream with Scott Horton. And on Wednesday, we will have an hour earlier stream with Mark Sloboda. So if you thought we were black pills, wait for Wednesday. You better put yourselves on like suicide watch. Like, okay. All right, guys. Sorry for all the bad news. But that's
lots of love. Keep that revolutionary optimism going.
Yeah, we have to stick together. People are learning that it's really us against them. They're seeing the overarching. We're all being led down the primrose path by the same people. Latin America is waking up. As soon as Americans stop fighting over where their ICE has the right to kill us, they'll probably maybe start waking up a little bit more, but it's a slow process. So thank you guys again for joining us. And here's that really great clip from the Gray Zone. And I recommend you guys go watch the whole episode. They're really great with Latin America.
So what we've seen from these soldiers in Patagonia is that they behave as if they didn't need to respect the laws of Argentina. And then they are very rude to people. They can walk into a supermarket and start eating food without paying, for example, because they know there won't be any local authority to tell them anything, because they have political backing behind them, to say the least. And several things have drawn attention in that regard. One is that we were in Patagonia this summer, where there were very important fires, very, very important in Patagonia, right on the trails where these Israeli soldiers walk. And part of the paradox is that fires always start in Patagonia near waterways. So President Milei changed the land law and the forest law so that any foreigner could buy land in Argentina right now. And he removed the forest law, through which, if a part of a forest burns down beforehand, it couldn't be sold for 20 years. So that prevented intentional fires from starting, because if someone had a piece of native forest, let's say fine, someone else could set it on fire and come and offer it much cheaper, when in reality they keep the land, and it's still next to a waterway. So far, Oscar, there has been only one case in which a person has been found setting forest fires in Patagonia, and it was on the Chilean side, right? It was a forest of more than 15,000 hectares in the Torres del Paine National Park, and it was indeed an Israeli soldier. The soldier's name is Rotter Singer. He acknowledged that he had deliberately set fire to the Torres del Paine National Park, but the Zionist lobby within the Chilean judiciary got them fined only 7,500 euros. Plus, in recent weeks, a long-standing theme has been confirmed. In Argentina, Israeli citizens will be able to have all the same rights as Argentine citizens and even collect a pension from the Argentine pension system, even if they've never worked here, and even if they don't even live in Argentina. In other words, the Argentine pension system will start supporting Israeli retirees. It's as crazy as you're hearing it.
Va a empezar a mantener a jubilados israelíes. Es así de desquiciado como lo estás escuchando.